Welcome back to The List. I'm Rick, and I want to take you back to the Senate race in Massachusetts. As I told you, this could be a breakthrough for the Republicans. This is Ted Kennedy's old seat. Huge national implications. Health care reform, Obama's broader agenda. Both will take hits if this seat in Massachusetts goes Republican. Let me show you the candidates. Here's the Democrat, Martha Coakley. You've been hearing about her. She's the state attorney general and was the early favorite, endorsed by the Boston Globe and the Massachusetts chiefs of police, among others. Republican Scott Brown has mounted a strong challenge, to say the very least. Brown is a state senator and an Army National Guardsman. He's been endorsed by the Boston Herald, the Tea Party Express, among others. And joining me now from Boston, Democrat Tim Murray. He's the Massachusetts lieutenant governor. And from Washington, Doug Hay. He's the Republican communications strategist. Doug, hi.
Thank you.
Pardon me. Well, let me start with you, Doug. Massachusetts Republican Party is looking at this race, and if Scott Brown wins, do you expect that he would hop on a flight to Washington and demand to be seated immediately to prevent the Democrats from passing health care reform while they're still enjoying this filibuster-proof majority of 60?
There's no question about it. If Scott Brown is leading in the polls on Tuesday night, he will be in Washington, D.C. on Wednesday morning, and Republicans will make the effort to have him sworn in as a senator. Really, it comes down to the detail of what the law is, and the law says that there need to be qualified candidates, not certified candidates. So it's not really a process that affected, say, the Al Franken, Norm Coleman race. And I know Republicans have a ton of lawyers on this that are really working hard.
But wait a minute. You're going to put him on a plane the very next day and have him in Washington saying, I want my seat. I won the election. I want to be seated.
Absolutely, and that's something that happens anytime a special election is held.
What if it's too close? What if they have to canvass the different boards and do some kind of recount, as we've seen a multitude of times?
You know, we've certainly seen that everywhere. You know, no better example than Florida. That's certainly a different example. But if it's clear that he's the winner, he will be in Washington, D.C. the next day, and he'll be sworn in, hopefully, as the next United States Senator for Massachusetts.
Tim, this thing could turn into a mess. It wouldn't be that way in the past because, after all, we're talking about Massachusetts. And usually Democrats win in Massachusetts. What is going on here? Why is your candidate down in so many polls?
Well, it's interesting to hear that Scott Brown's already lawyering up. Whatever the legal process is in Massachusetts and Washington, D.C., it should be followed. But, you know, Martha Coakley's going to win because I think people right now are really scrutinizing the records or the lack thereof between the two candidates. Martha Coakley has a track record in Massachusetts as Attorney General of protecting taxpayers. Scott Brown has raised taxes, $300 million back in 2003, voted for a gas tax. Martha Coakley is the only candidate in this race that has never raised a tax.
Then why isn't she winning, Tim? She should be killing this guy. She's in Massachusetts. She's a Democrat. It's Ted Kennedy's seat. You should be winning this race, and you're not.
And she is going to win. But let me tell you, unenrolled are the largest portion of voters in Massachusetts. And I give Scott Brown credit. He's done a good job of running from his record. But as I said, he's the only one who's ever voted to raise taxes of the two candidates.
But is there something outside of the candidates that's going on here? Doug, let me go back to you on this. I mean, we've seen the Tea Parties. We've seen a real resentment in this country about the taxes, the bailouts, all the different efforts that have been made, like TARP, for example, not to mention Wall Street. Is that what's really fueling the anti-Democrat resentment that we may be seeing in Massachusetts?
Yeah, we're seeing it in Massachusetts. We're seeing it all over the country. Voters are dissatisfied, especially independent voters. A lot of voters who voted for Barack Obama in 2008 are not happy with what's going on. And that's why if you're a conservative, you're a Democrat representing a conservative district or a swing district, you've seen what the political landscape is going to be in 2010, and it's not pretty for you.
Does that mean, Tim, that if Martha Coakley was a Republican right now, she would be doing well simply because, in other words, it's that big D in front of your name that's going to hurt you no matter who you are in this country? And is this going to be the first showing of that?
Well, Rick, I don't necessarily agree with that. I think when people you talked about the corporate excesses and people's frustration, Martha Coakley has been incredibly successful as an attorney general, going after illegal corporate activity, unscrupulous illegal activity by companies, whether it be on the foreclosure crisis, one of the first attorney generals in the country to aggressively go after the Goldman Sachs. She's going after utility companies in the state, protecting taxpayers.
I get it. But does she
She's
root
also
for
going after Catholic voters and Boston Red Sox fans?
But does she root for the Red Sox? That's the question that I think a lot of Bostonians want to know.
Well, Martha Coakley grew up in North Adams, a big family of 5. She roots for the Red Sox, trust me.
If you're following this story in Massachusetts, you know what we mean. My thanks to both of you. Tim, Doug, thanks for being on the list.